What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Look at me yawning. Oh, man. Do you remember we spoke a few weeks back about something tragic that happened in Kenya? There was a pastor, I think his name was Paul Tenge Mackenzie. Okay, Paul Tenge Mackenzie, who incited his church to go into fasting mode. And people fasted until many of them, I'm not going to say the word because we get censored. You know what I mean? They fasted to the level where many of them, because they wanted to see Jesus. So some of these people were told, you're going to fast, you're going to pray, you're going to go into a segregated, how do you call it, like outside town sort of area where you hold this church, like near the bush, where you're going to fast and pray, you're going to pray and fast until you're going to see Jesus. No, he said to them, don't worry about your anger. If you're tired, don't worry, because the ultimate goal is to see Jesus. And many people, unfortunately, were very sad, right? We need to find a word for that without saying, I need to find a word for that. So, Kenyan preacher Paul Tenge Mackenzie has appeared to court following the discovery of skull bodies in a remote forest. He's accused of encouraging his followers to starve themselves to. Hundreds of relatives are now wondering what happened to their loved one. That was when the story first came out. So he encouraged his followers, the church, to starve themselves in the name of fasting many of them lost their, because they were fasting. I find this really, really strange in Africa. We have this very blind belief. We just trust people. He's a man of God. Man of God. What do you think about my future? Man of God, what do you think about my marriage? I'm looking at this guy. Do you think God says this is the guy for me? Man of God, do you think I should leave my job and try to do another job in a remote area? Why do you need somebody else to decide for you? I don't get that. You're an adult. You're a big man. You're a grown man. Why do you need somebody else to decide for you? I don't understand that level of lack of self-esteem. That's what it is. And also I can glue that to the fact that Africans for many, many years back in time, Africans, before they did anything, they had to consult with a spiritual guide, like a Sangoma, like they say in South Africa. They needed to go see a sorcerer or something very close to speak blessings on them before they go hunt. They need to go see a sorcerer before they go fish. They need to go see sorcerer before they go plant. And that was the mechanism that made African work. So everything had to get a blessing of a sorcerer or a fetishist or something esoteric or something like that. And I firmly believe that with the new era of Christianism that we see today, people have just converted, they just transposed the mentality they had prior to this when they went to see sorcerers before they choose studies, when they want to see sorcerers before they do a business decision. Now they're not seeing sorcerers anymore, they're seeing pastors. Now we don't see sorcerers anymore. Do you hear of any sorcerers, any person that does in the name of Satan anymore? They don't exist anymore. Why? Because they've all became pastor. Yes, most of them have become pastors and prophets and stuff like that. And now they're booming into the business. And now the story is, you remember that story, okay? Now what's happening today? What's happening today is once they went to this forest looking for I'm not going to say the word because we're going to get censored, of the people that what happened was they discovered that many of these people's organs were harvested. So they removed the organs. For what purpose? You can imagine. So some of the people did not really, because of starvation, a lot of them were suffocated. I'm trying to avoid saying those words because we're going to get censored. Some of the people were suffocated in order to harvest what they had within themselves. And obviously, for those of you who know, there is a sophisticated black market, getting all that stuff for very cheap price. That's real. They say a sophisticated black market exists across the world, particularly in developing nations, to extract organs, for example, kidneys, part of the livers, and even corneas from living people, many of whom have been transported for operation, some against their will. So this is a reality, fellas. I mean, why do you think so many kids disappear just like that? Like every year we have so many, like hundreds of thousands of people disappear across the world. And just think about it, with all the technology that we have, okay, the technology where they can locate you, they can see you via IP address and see you via satellite. Where are all these hundreds and thousands of people that just disappear every day and nobody know where they go because of this? Now, the lesson we have to learn here is what? Even though the investigation is ongoing in Kenya regarding this case, why do we give so much power to pastors? I'm not asking you to not pray. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, don't take my word and change it to what it's not. Why do we give so much power into pastors? These are cult. Most of these churches are cult. That's the truth. And if this makes you uncomfortable, then you need to review yourself, because even the most stable people do understand that as much as there are good churches, most of them here are cult. It's for the sole purpose of benefiting one person or 3 or 4 or 5 investors. That's what it is. How can somebody tell a big crew of people, go into fasting, even if you it's okay because you're going to see Jesus. And people do it. I don't understand that. And cult is not just a church. Even political parties can become cult. When you blindly start following orders from the superior without necessarily putting into place your own values and judgment. That is a cult. Many political parties have become cults. When the boss, the chief, the superior say, do this, you do it blindly without thinking. When they say, hate these people because these people are against you. Even if you know historically that's not the truth. Just because your boss or your chief or your superior said it, you follow the orders. That's what happens in Africa. One of the reasons why many political parties are very tribal orientated. You will see the chief, if the chief is from whichever tribe, you see most of the people, the secretary general, the secretary, the deputy, whatever, everybody and the simple people are from the very specific tribe. That's the reality of it. Look across Africa. You'll see most political parties are divided based in tribes. It's like we don't understand the concept of countries. We just understand the concept of kingdoms and tribalistic mind. These are all cults. I think a normal human being should be able to look at whatever situation he found himself in and make his own decision. Even if 10 people go to the left, you can decide to go to the right because that's what's right. That's what your values support. So again, Paul Ntenge Mackenzie, who was this guy? He was a taxi driver. So a taxi driver from Kenya, after doing taxi business for years, because they know him as a taxi driver, one day he said, you know what? From now on, I'm a pastor. Call me Pastor Paul Ntenge Mackenzie. I can pray for you. I'll do miracles. If you're poor, you're going to be rich. If you want to get a visa to the United States, you're going to get it. Yes, of course. Many Africans, unfortunately, still dream about America as if that was paradise, not understanding reality of the state. It's very sad. I mean, you're going to be shocked if you go to Detroit and see the reality of Detroit. Some of areas in Kenya are much better than the US. Some of areas in Johannesburg are much better than the USA. Well, they don't show you that on TV. They choose specifically the nice places to show you. And Africa, on the other hand, is shown to the darkest or most obscure side. Yes. So this pastor just need to say to you, okay, if I pray for you, you're going to get marriage. And a lot of people go. And another issue in Africa is that many people don't go to church because they really want to pray. Many people go to church because they're looking to heal from a disease. Many people go to church because they're trying to get married. Many people go to church because they want to get a visa. Many people go to church because they're looking for a job. They struggle so much. They're trying to change their life. Many people go to church because they want to heal from something. Like very rarely you see people going to church because they just love God. And that is the reason why you see people that go to church. As much as they go to church, they are the most evil people toward other human beings is you've never seen. And it's very hard to comprehend. How come you go to church every day, but you're such a not nice person? How do you explain that? Yes, because they go to church for specific interest. So again here, we're not preaching against the church. We are preaching against stupidity to a level where you're going to fast until you and they harvest stuff off your body. Does that make sense? Yes, some of these people actually, because they were starved to, I'm not going to say the word again. Some of them were because they were starved to, a lot of them were suffocated. Okay, those are other ones. I mean, this is very sad because I also know there's a country in Africa. I'm not going to name the country because I don't want you to, in this country, when you go to the hospital and you happen to have an issue, if you're a foreigner, you may find yourself in a situation where you went to the hospital for headache and they're going to call your family maybe a day later saying you have pastor. Yes. Okay. And then people will go like, but you went to the hospital because you had a headache. What happened? When you go to the hospital, what they're going to find, or everything on the inside has been pulled out. Yes, there's a country in Africa where things happen very, very, very often with foreigners, specifically with foreigners. If it's a foreign African national in that country, if you go to the hospital and you don't have insurance, you don't have somebody to follow you up, you don't have somebody behind you to make sure everything is okay. If you are unconscious, there are very big chances that you're not going to come out alive. Yeah. For those of you who know, you know. Many people have complained about it, but they turn a blind eye. And that sends a very strong message. It tells me that this is a business that is known by higher power. It's not just me and you, people at the hospital, whatever. It's but like, how come they don't do anything about it? I mean, shouldn't you give consent to give whatever that, I mean, if something happened to you, shouldn't the family give consent that you can take whatever you want? I mean, where's the respect? I went in for a headache and I come out in a box with everything gone. How do you explain that? There must be a business where people are making a lot of money out of it. Let's use our brains, fellas. Let's stay sober. It's great to be in communication with higher powers, with God, with everything, whatever. It's very good to be a man of church, a man of God, a man of wisdom. wisdom. But don't become blind to a level where you can listen to anybody just because he calls himself pastor or prophet. I don't know who give them those titles. Many of them don't go to school for it. I'm sorry to say it. We knew that people before they became prophet or became pastor or whatever, they had to go a very strenuous training, program in order to speak to people. Because even normally, in order for you to go see a psychologist, you need to see a psychologist who's been to school for many years for him to talk to you about certain things. A professor at school has gone through many years of training before he speaks to students. How come you can just go to somebody, you don't know their background, you know what they lived in life, you have no idea what they've done in life, and let them speak onto you? Doesn't make sense. Once again, Paul Ntenge Mackenzie, former taxi driver, turned out to become a prophet, pastor. On his shoulder, many lives are lost. It's very sad. Let me know what you think about it, fellas. They say the business of trafficking, you know what I mean? Today, the black market is worth $1.7 billion in the world. $1.7 billion a year. That's a lot of money. That's a big budget. Do you think these people are going to stop? It's never going to stop if we don't do what we need to do. God bless.